Hey guys, it's Brittany. So today I'm going to go over mastitis in the TBR2. I'm going to look at a couple of rubrics that are particularly applicable to mastitis. Obviously, though, this is with the big caveat that every case is always individual. And so please don't add any of these rubrics if you are looking at a case of mastitis and these rubrics do not apply. And please add in any that do apply. Okay? But I find it helpful to sort of think about the rubrics that can be applied in cases like these that are not always necessarily apparent to me in the TBR2. In particular, we're going to go over glands. So the breasts are glands in the TBR2, and so there's rubrics under the glands section that I would not have necessarily thought to include in a mastitis case when I was starting out with this repertory. So, without further ado, most mastitis comes on in the very early postpartum when a woman is just starting to breastfeed her babe. That's not always the case. So if that's not the case, this may not be the rubric for you, but this particular rubric is the first one I think of, which is worse while breastfeeding, which is worded suckling the infant. I hate the word suckling. Ugh, so disgusting. Anyway, it means worse breastfeeding. Note also here, you can even see this last sentence of the endnotes say that Bunninghausen puts remedies useful in mastitis in this rubric. So then the next one is retention of fluids. Worse retention of fluids. So most mastitis, it will feel like a buildup of too much milk in the breast. Essentially, usually what causes mastitis is not enough milk being expressed. So especially if women are trying to go a long time between feeding, or their babe is not eating very well and there's not a lot of milk flowing, they may be more likely to get mastitis. Same if they have too much milk. So that's going to be a rubric we'll look at later, is if you have too much milk, then not all of it is going to be circulating through the breast well. And it's that stagnation that often creates mastitis, because that stagnation allows bacteria in the breast milk to build up and create an infection. So all of this is to say that usually women feel better when the babe is eating, and so essentially they're worse when the milk is not flowing. So worse from retention of fluids or congestion. Right. So now, to me, one of the least, let me find it here instead. So one of the least obvious rubrics, though, is in the gland section. So the breasts in this repertory are in fact glands. So all of these rubrics can apply in a case of mastitis, depending on what the presentation is like. There are a couple I want to draw your attention to. So one is inflammation. Mastitis literally is inflammation of the breast. Right? So, that's just a pretty good rubric to add in. But you can consider some others. So here we have burning, like a hot swelling. Often the breasts are very hot to touch. There can be burning pains as well. So that's a potential one. Induration. Often there is hardness of the breast in mastitis. This is especially true if they're starting to get more towards an abscess. So if you leave mastitis for too long, you can get a frank abscess of the breast, and that's when you might get more of the induration. And if you get an abscess, you can add separation of the glands. Now also, if you just look at the rubric chart here with just these sort of classic signs of mastitis, you have one clear winner, which is why I wouldn't necessarily say belladonna is like a specific for mastitis. That's not true at all, because I don't really think that kind of thing exists. But it's definitely a remedy I would want to think of if you are sort of on the fly and you need something really fast. Right. So, but consider any of these rubrics that may fit in your case. Now, if you go to the location, so you've got a rubric here, mammae, breasts. You can add that in if you would like. There's also nipples. You know, mastitis often, not only is it that milk isn't flowing enough, but it can be that there's problems with breastfeeding, so there's chapped and cracked nipples. That allows an infection to come in, essentially, because an infection is, it's able to enter the bloodstream then, right? So you can consider this if nipple pain is a problem, if they have a lot of cracked and bleeding nipples. You can also add increased milk supply, because increased milk will often be part of the problem, and it will create mastitis that recurs, because they can have a lot of milk and it doesn't flow well enough then, because like the babe just can't eat that much. Mom can't stuff the babe that much to get enough flowing. And look, this is now okay. I hope that was helpful, and that those are some rubrics that at least get your creative juices flowing about what may or may not be good in a rep chart or helpful in a rep chart for mastitis. One lifestyle note that I will add for mastitis is that if breastfeeding is difficult, to always try and get your patient, or you, if you are your patient, some lactation support, because a lot of the problems that create mastitis can also really be hygienic, in the sense of getting babe to have a good latch, because if they're not eating well, you know, the milk is staying stagnant. If the latch is not good, the cracked and bleeding nipples is going to be a big problem and create mastitis over and over again. All right, so hope that helps. Till next time.